Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slash Film Daily for Wednesday, July 28th, 2021. On today's episode, we're going to discuss the latest film and TV news. This is Slash Film editorial director Peter Sciretta, and joining me on today's podcast is Slash Film weekend editor and senior writer Brad Oman.
Hey, that's me.
And senior writer Ben Pearson.
Hey, what's going on?
Okay, so we got a bunch of news to discuss today. Let's start first with the Marvel side of the galaxy. In Guardians of the Galaxy, the holiday special, which is going to be the next time we see this motley group of Guardians. We have some new quotes from James Gunn. Brad, tell us about it.
It sounds like the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special isn't going to be anything to ignore or just brush off. James Gunn has specifically come out and said that it's going to be a must-watch before Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 comes. So in case you didn't know, the holiday special is coming before Volume 3 happens and is released in theaters. And it's going to be some kind of a big deal because not only is it canon, but you're going to learn stuff that you need to before that sequel comes out. Gunn didn't really get specific as far as like what would be happening or the kind of details that will carry over, simply because Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is still pretty far out. It's set for release on May 5th, 2023. So there's a lot of time to pass between now and then, and a lot of other things are probably going to happen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe between now and then. So there you go.
This is kind of surprising because I feel like most holiday specials, like people think of maybe Star Wars, the holiday special, or any of those. I don't know. There was a Toy Story. There's been a Kung Fu Panda. There was, I guess, the Charlie Brown cartoons. Are those holiday specials? Maybe.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, because there's Christmas and Thanksgiving and like a bunch of other ones. And then don't forget the Flintstones and Christmas special. That's a big one. Come on.
Oh, I don't think I've ever seen that one.
Forget that one. Yeah, I've never seen it either. I don't know what you're talking.
But I'm just saying, like, most of those are like so self-contained and have no repercussions on the franchises as a whole.
Marvel. It's Marvel.
So, Brad, I mean, you follow this as closely as any of us. Like, how do you think? I mean, obviously, it's going to show the growth of Groot, right?
I mean, I'm sure we'll get Christmas Groot. Like, what? He's a walking tree. if he's not a fucking Christmas tree in the holiday special, someone's getting fired.
But like, in what ways can it have major implications into the story that you would need to see this before you watch Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3? I guess it does set up. Like, is it going to clarify what happens to like Thor's with them now, right?
Yeah, I mean, we know the Guardians of the Galaxy are appearing in Thor: Love and Thunder, so it's possible. But Thor: Love and Thunder comes out next year, doesn't it?
So he'll still be with them. That's what you're saying, probably.
I suppose it's possible. But like, I mean, for me, I think what it is like the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special obviously is taking cues from the Star Wars holiday special. James Gunn is a fan of it, unironically. Like, he actually enjoys it. But I think what this will be like a hybrid of like what the Star Wars holiday special was trying to be, and then also like a legitimate Guardians of the Galaxy story that just happens to take place during some kind of holiday, whether it's Peter Quill trying to celebrate Christmas, still keeping up Earth traditions, or if there's some kind of cosmic holiday that Drax celebrates or something like that. Maybe they all try to celebrate their own holidays. But like,
Marvel needs their own life day, Brad.
I know, right? So I feel like there'll be a legitimate story, and it just so happens to take place around the time of some kind of holiday. And so there'll be things maybe that we learn about the characters, or like something that's introduced that will probably carry over into the next Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Yeah, and speaking of that movie, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is set to film this November. We wrote an article about this, and James Gunn has basically said that this script has been finished for like 3 years now. He's tinkered with it, but it's basically been the same, so don't expect too many changes.
Yeah, I mean, it was done before he was, fired by Disney, and then so he said that he's, changed a few things here and there and messed around with like little details, but otherwise, like it's been pretty much finished for a while.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Volume 3, but I have talked to a couple people who have read that script, and every single one of them said they cried. So So there's that. Okay, let's move on from the Marvel galaxy to the Star Wars galaxy. Let's talk about the upcoming Ahsoka series. There is a social media post from star Rosario Dawson, which confirms or doesn't confirm the live action casting of some characters from the animated series. Ben, tell us about this.
Yeah, so this one is a little bit of a mess. So there are these characters, for people out there like me who have not seen any of the Star Wars animated shows that have come out recently, you may not be familiar, but these characters, Ezra Bridger and Grand Admiral Thrawn, are two of like the main, very important characters in Star Wars Rebels. And Rosario Dawson she played the live action iteration of Ahsoka Tano on The Mandalorian. She's going to be starring in her own spinoff show very soon. And she shared she reshared somebody else's post in her Instagram stories. And this person shared, okay, Peter, see if you can follow me on this, right? This random person shared a meme that originated basically says that Mina Masood, the guy who played Aladdin in the live action Aladdin movie that came out a couple years ago, and Lars Mikkelsen, who provides the voice for Thrawn, have been cast in this live action Ahsoka show. So this random person says this on the internet and says like, oh, this is great. I'm looking forward to seeing this show. Basically, I can't wait to see Rosario Dawson and Mina Masood share the screen together, essentially. Rosario Dawson sees this in her mentions, I guess, and then reshares this image.
So this confirms that those two people have been cast as the animated characters in this live action TV series, right?
I mean, maybe, but she didn't actually add any of her own words to this. And she also, it seems to me that she deleted that Instagram story that she shared. So there are the way I see it, two potential options here. So as the lead of the upcoming Ahsoka show, one could guess that, hey, maybe the lead of the show has some inside track on what's going on with the casting news. Maybe the people involved, the producers of the show, come to her and ask her about the show. Maybe, the casting, maybe she's done chemistry reads with some of these people, something like that. So maybe she saw this post, assumed that the news was out there in an official capacity, and just shared it because she is excited about working with these guys. Or maybe she just got duped, or is excited about the possibility of maybe working with these guys. I mean, there's so many different ways that this could go. The fact that she deleted it could be Disney yelling at her, hey, take this down. We're not ready to officially announce this yet. It could also be her realizing, oh, I shared this thing that is factually inaccurate, and I should take it down before other people assume that I'm lending credence to this false story. So there's a lot going on here.
So you're saying the fact that she shared this and the fact that she deleted it could either mean that she did or she didn't have information on this, which means that we know nothing.
Right. Yes, that's exactly right. I mean, I think, Peter, you would know way more than I would, but yeah. Even as somebody on the outside looking in, it seems very likely to me that these characters, Ezra and Thrawn, are actually going to appear in live action in this Ahsoka show. And it's also possible that these actors might even end up playing those characters. Yeah. But I think right now it's just it's a little too early to, be proclaiming across the internet, this is an official thing, because it as you can tell from the labyrinthine tracing of what the hell just went on here and where this story came from and all of this kind of stuff, it's far from official at this point.
Yeah, this is far from official. I would go as far as saying I would bet money that Lars is Thrawn in this show. But that is only based on Star Wars Rebels ends on a cliffhanger, which is going to most likely, I would say I'm 99% sure, lead into this series and what the adventure is for this series, which is Ahsoka and Sabine trying to find Ezra Bridger. And he was last seen with Thrawn, and Thrawn is played by Lars in the animated show. So for him to reprise his role in live action here seems... I don't know. It seems like almost a lock, but like you said, yeah, this doesn't confirm anything. It definitely doesn't confirm the Ezra Bridger casting there. That could just be fan. I don't know. This you never know with these things. Like we've reported stuff in the past. We were the ones that broke the story that Rosario Dawson was playing Ahsoka in Mandalorian. You know, stuff does leak out of these productions all the time, and Star Wars and Disney with this production isn't even announcing casting. Do you know what I mean? Like they just want the people to show up on the series. So
yeah, I think, and to take this even further into the weeds, like when we reported the Rosario Dawson thing, I'm pretty sure that like Deadline and Hollywood Reporter and some of the other big outlets also like independently confirmed that.
Oh yeah, they did.
Followed up and wrote their stories after we published ours. But this quote unquote news about Mina Massoud and Lars Mikkelsen originated in a YouTube video from Latino Review's YouTube page that was published like a week ago, and nobody has really picked up on this since. So that doesn't really make it seem to me like it's a real thing quite yet. They could very well be, at the top of the wanted lists for these roles or something, maybe even like in talks, but it doesn't seem like the ink is dry on the contracts quite yet.
Yeah. So I guess this whole discussion is to tell you guys out there that are listening to this podcast to not always assume or it's hard because news outlets are picking up this Instagram post and running it as a confirmation. So I guess.
Yeah, we just want people to be informed about what's going on. Maybe don't believe every headline you read, and sometimes it's important to dig around and find do this ridiculous backtracing of where all this stuff came from to sort of figure out in common sense whether or not it makes sense that this is actually happening.
Yes. Let's move on to our next story. One of Ben's favorite movies, Die Hard. They were going to make a prequel to Die Hard. It seems like that is not happening anymore. Brad, tell us about it.
Yeah, so there have been rumblings of a Die Hard prequel for a long time. The idea of a Die Hard prequel first originated with a Boom Studios comic book back in 2009 called Die Hard Year One that was taking place before the events of the first movie, back during 1976 when McClane was first earning his badge. And then sometime later, Fox decided that it was a good idea to turn Die Hard 1 into Year One into a movie, but it had a different story, and it wasn't just adapting the comic, and it still followed a story about John McClane before the events of Die Hard. It was supposed to explain kind of how he, became the character he was in Die Hard, which is very, very silly. And thankfully, it seems like in the process of Fox moving over to Disney, that some people thought that maybe that wasn't such a great idea, because producer Lorenzo Di Bonaventura, who's been making the publicity rounds while Snake Eyes is coming to theaters, was recently asked about this project that he was attached to for a long time. And we hadn't heard anything about this since 2018, so no one was really clamoring to see what was going on with this movie that has since gone by the title McClane. And Di Bonaventura has basically said that the project just isn't happening anymore. There's no development on it. It's not actively being worked on or anything. And so it's just kind of fallen by the wayside and isn't in the works anymore. So he still believes in the idea, I guess, because he says, quote, "What was interesting about our idea was it allowed you the ability to meet young John McClane and use Bruce Willis too. So it was really interesting in that way. So you sort of got to see both versions of him, a bit like The Godfather Part 2. That's a big swing, Lorenzo, comparing a Die Hard prequel to The Godfather Part 2. But this was a prequel where we would have a different actor playing young John McClane, but then Bruce Willis would be in the movie as well. But it wasn't just as bookend pieces to begin and end the movie. Apparently, back when the movie was still in development and Live Free or Die Hard director Len Weissman was still attached, he said that it was a script that was like a hybrid prequel and sequel that used Bruce Willis even more than just a bookend cameo. So there must have been some kind of narrative connective tissue that had McClane doing something in modern day, and it tied back to something with a young John McClane too. But now we'll never get to see it, and nobody cares.
This is really the approach I was hoping they were going to take with Indiana Jones. Ben, I know you are a fan of Die Hard. Are you bummed, or are you happy that they're not making this prequel?
I'm very glad that they're not making this. I feel like Die Hard is done. It's over. It's dead. Let it die. It was buried a long time ago. What is I'm trying to even remember the one that came after A Good Day to Die Hard. Oh my God. That is like one of the worst studio movies that I've seen in, I don't know, 10 years or something. It is very bad. And I'm glad.
Wait, which one was that? Was that the one with Justin Long?
No, that was Live Free or Die Hard. A Good Day to Die Hard, I believe, was with Jai Courtney as his son, and it's in Russia or something for the most part. And like Bruce Willis is like pissed off about being in Russian traffic, and like
not only that, but like every few minutes he says I'm supposed to be on vacation.
Oh yes, of course. So yeah. Mary Elizabeth Winstead notwithstanding, I don't like that movie.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I've wiped it from my brain at this point. Okay, let's talk about the Ghostbusters Afterlife trailer. A trailer came out yesterday for this new movie from Jason Reitman. I don't want to get into the whole fan discussion of what happened with the last Ghostbusters movie from Paul Feig. I just want to talk about this trailer itself because I don't know. It feels like it's kind of like that, like the Zack Snyder Justice League thing, where you can't talk about one without talking about the fandom. But I want to try to avoid the fandom here, and let's just talk about the art, the film itself here. So this new trailer came out, and Brad, let's go with you first. What was your reaction? Oh, before, if you haven't seen this trailer, there's a link in the show notes to go watch this trailer. Brad, you're the biggest Ghostbusters fan I know. What did you think of the Ghostbusters Afterlife trailer?
I love this trailer. I was not expecting to love this trailer this much. It honestly brought a tear to my eye in the same way that the teaser trailer for The Force Awakens did when I first saw it. It just gave me some nice nostalgic feelings. I like the tone it's striking. It doesn't feel like a traditional Ghostbusters movie, and I appreciate that so much because I don't think you can replicate the first two Ghostbusters with the old cast in the current state that they're in. And considering how long the franchise has been around, I think this is the right approach. Inject it with a new tone, but keep some of the pieces in play that people remember from the original Ghostbusters, introduce it to a new generation without completely overhauling everything. And like there were some people complaining that this movie, the trailer rather, like struck that same chord, and like this doesn't feel like the original Ghostbusters. And I'm like, good, I don't need another Ghostbusters movie that is exactly like the first two or trying to be like the first two. I like what is different about this, and I appreciate it. So I'm very excited to see if this movie can pull off what it's offering in this trailer.
Yeah, I also really connected with the trailer, the nostalgia of it. I like that this doesn't seem like it's world-ending consequences, or I mean, maybe it is, but it seems very small. It's taking place in a small, like Midwest town. It doesn't seem like it's not another big city like the last two films. It's they're trying to do something different. Sure, they have the Ecto-1, they have the proton packs, they got the Ghost Trap, they got something that looks like Slimer, they got a small version of Stay Puff. I feel like you got to include some of those things in there to introduce it to a new generation. And I also like that this is a story about a family, and it's about a new generation. It's about legacy, and it's from Jason Reitman, who is the son of Ivan Reitman, who was the director of the original films. And Jason, his entire career has been running away, I don't want to say running away from that Reitman name, but because I know he's very proud of his dad and he's proud of his family, but he's been trying to make his own dent in the cinematic landscape. And whenever he was asked about Ghostbusters, he was like, oh, no, I'll never do a big movie like that. I'll never do car chases. I'll never do whatnot. And it's cool that they're working together, creating Ghostbusters for a new generation. So that was my thoughts. Ben, I'm guessing you're probably a little bit colder on it than Brad and I.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with this movie, or with the first Ghostbusters anyway. I think I've probably only seen Ghostbusters 2 one time. But it was never like a huge touchstone, like personality defining movie for me. So I don't necessarily have the same level of nostalgia that a lot of folks have around this particular movie and this franchise. Like, I really liked the 2016 movie. I guess we don't need to talk about that because that brings in a whole nother conversation. But I enjoyed that, and so I'm like not opposed to new Ghostbuster stuff. But this one, I don't know. I'm seeing a couple red flags here, like the tiny Stay Puffed marshmallow men. I'm kind of like wary of that as a concept. I kind of agree with Brad that I don't want to see just a rehash of the same thing as what happened in the first two movies, especially because the original cast is so old now, and it's not going to have that same energy. It's going to feel a little bit more depressing than I think people have it, are building it up in their minds if they really think that they want that. So I kind of like the idea of them taking it in a different direction. I'm just not sure if like this, Stranger Things vibe is really the direction that makes the most sense to me. But I'm okay with like sitting in the back seat for this one and just being like, hey, this isn't really my favorite franchise. It's not really like my thing. So hopefully it works and it is like a better blockbuster than anybody is expecting. So I certainly like don't harbor any ill will toward this movie. I just am sort of looking at it a little bit more askance than you guys are at this stage.
I know Stranger Things is on like the tip of everybody's tongue when it comes to that tone, and I understand why, because it's the most recent thing that's been like that. But like this
Finn Wolfhard too, I think
for sure. But I feel like the tone of this trailer, and it seems like what this movie is probably going for, goes all the way back to the old Amblin movies that Spielberg did. E.T. and the Goonies, and that's exactly what Stranger Things is trying to emulate anyway. And funnily enough, I feel like if you go watch the Super 8 trailer and then watch this trailer, the pace throughout and exactly what it's trying to achieve is very, very similar.
And Super 8 turned out to be the best movie. No, sorry. I agree with what Brad's saying here. And, I'm going to put a link in the show notes. Jason Reitman did this exclusive trailer breakdown for IGN where he went through the trailer like shot by shot. It's like a 15-minute long thing. And he kind of explains, or he gives some insight into what's happening on screen. But I think what's more interesting is explaining his thought process on why he chose to do things in certain ways, why he chose to set this outside of, a city, why he chose to set it with kids. And I don't know, it brought, it gave me an appreciation for it that I didn't have. Not that I don't assume that Jason is a thoughtful filmmaker, because it tends to put a lot of thought into all his films, but it's good to hear the reasoning and stuff. Brad, I know you did a trailer breakdown. Was there anything in this trailer that people might have missed that they should be on the lookout if they watch it again?
I mean, the clearest thing that there are several allusions to and that you get the vibe of is exactly what kind of terror is at play here, and it calls back to the original Ghostbusters and the return of Ghost of the Gozerian, which explains, why we're seeing a lot of similar things that have popped up before, from the mini Stay Puffs to the Terror Dogs. But you'll also notice that like one of the specters, that we see is this different version of the Terror Dog. We obviously see the regular dog-like one that chases after Paul Rudd out of Walmart. But there's another one that is shown in like a smoky spectral form, and it's this new Sentinel Terror Dog that they've shown in an action figure form as well. That is like essentially like almost like a Minotaur version of the Terror Dog that stands on two legs and is big and muscular. So they're changing up the villains and creatures a little bit in this movie, in addition to bringing back Gozer, which you do get a brief glimpse of in statue form and in a very quick shot in some kind of underground temple, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, we got to talk about the stinger of this trailer, because the stinger, it takes place in
Raise a Cult.
Yeah, I have a T-shirt, the Ray is a Cult T-shirt from Last Exit to Nowhere, which is a great T-shirt place. But I didn't realize and it was cool to see this in the trailer. It was a great like, oh wow moment. But I didn't realize until I was watching that breakdown from Jason Reitman that like how well they recreated that set. Like that red telephone, is in that set. Did you notice the tattoo?
I saw that in the breakdown. I didn't see it when I was watching the trailer, but like that if you look at Dan Aykroyd's arm, apparently in the time since Ghostbusters 2, he's gotten a tattoo on his arm of the Bible quote that him and Winston talk about in the original Ghostbusters. Yeah.
Revelation 6:12. You know what I'm very curious about, and I can get your thoughts on this stinger scene in the trailer in a second, but I'm really curious, like, how does the world of Ghostbusters take the events that happened in New York City? Because I guess it happened twice, right? But still, kids today, like the kids of the age that are in this movie, didn't grow up during the events of, say, even like a 9/11, right? Like that took place before they were born. In the events of what happened and I'm assuming kids like these days have to go to YouTube and like look up that stuff, even though it was 9/11 is one of the biggest events, of the last 100 years. And I'm wondering, the events of the first two Ghostbusters, those took place, 20 years before that, almost, maybe 15 years before that. Like, what kind of effects do you think, Brad, like the world, like does the world remember the Ghostbusters?
No, and I think that they've established that with the first trailer, because when Phoebe, who is Egon Spengler's granddaughter, brings a ghost trap that she finds in the farmhouse left to her family into school, Paul Rudd's character is like, he's like, oh, cool, replica. And they're like, of what? And he's like, a ghost trap. It's like, don't you know about this? And they have no idea what he's talking about. And like, originally I thought that this was like kind of weird. And it's like, how do you forget something like that? Like, it's freaking ghosts attacked in New York City all across it. But then I remembered, like, it's something that's kind of already established in Ghostbusters, and it almost kind of fits in a very New York way, because Ghostbusters 2 is set 5 years after the original Ghostbusters. And it's kind of funny that it's actually Jason Reitman himself in a cameo as a kid in Ghostbusters 2 says, my dad says that you guys are full of crap. And that 5 years after the events of Ghostbusters, tons of people don't even think it was a real thing that happened, that it was some kind of hoax, that that those events weren't even real, So I guess it's not hard, at least in the universe they've established, for people to have forgotten that something like that happened, and so that no one's talking about it anymore.
Brad, we're living during a pandemic where half America believes that the vaccine is a hoax. So there you go. I feel like it's not unbelievable at all. Sadly. Ben, what did you think of the stinger?
I mean, that's the kind of thing where I'm like, I don't know. I really think, I think it actually works really, really well as a stinger in a trailer. I'm very curious to see how it's going to get incorporated into the movie as a whole. Like what exactly is the involvement level of all the original folks in this movie? And I think the answer to that question is going to like directly correlate with the ultimate quality level of this movie as a whole.
Well, I would say that we already have a potential answer to that question thanks to some action figures unveiled by Hasbro.
No, tell us about
that. So after the trailer came out yesterday, Hasbro released the first line of action figures that are coming from Ghostbusters Afterlife. And in addition to the 4 young Ghostbusters that we'll see in the movie, the fourth one being a character played by Celeste O'Connor, who plays a young friend that Finn Wolfhard's character makes in the movie, who we've seen a little bit of, but we didn't know she was going to be one of the new Ghostbusters until this action figure came out. Along with those were the 3 original Ghostbusters in their aged form, where we see Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Ernie Hudson, and Bill Murray has a full head of gray hair. Ray and Winston have a little bit of salt and pepper on the sides of their head, and they're wearing their full Ghostbusters jumpsuits. So it looks like they will be back in full gear at some point in this movie.
How much do you think we'll see of that, though? Is it that?
I imagine it'll be at the very end that they'll probably show up, and we'll get our big finale with all the kids and the original team.
See, that's tough. I think I'm on Ben's side on this one, because if this is the story of these kids and they just show up and save the day, like, how do you do that balance? Like, yeah, how do you make it not about them?
I guess the same question could be asked about Jurassic World Dominion, right? Because that's doing the same thing, like bringing the old Jurassic Park crew back. And I'm very curious about the like the formula in that one too. Like what I know that that's supposed to be big roles for Laura Dern and Sam Neill and Goldblum in that one too. So yeah, it's just like, you know, we're in a weird era of IP where like these studios are still they're tapping these franchises that the original stars are still around and like trying to incorporate them into these new movies. So it's just like each individual movie strikes its own balance in a unique way. So I'm curious how it plays out across the board.
I think for Jurassic World Dominion, what's going to probably happen is we'll see Dr. Alan Grant, Dr. Sadler, and Dr. Malcolm speed up in one of those Jurassic Park Ford Explorers, and they'll all get out with like the gear that they came in their action figures back in the day, and they'll be like, "Step back, Owen Grady, we got this from here," and they just start fighting dinosaurs.
I thought you were going to say they get immediately eaten. And it's like a Gruber bit or something.
Guys.
They each have those night vision goggles on their head, and they like put them down and like pull out like some kind of like ecto gun and shoot at them. No, I don't think I hope both these handle this much better than we're, fearing. But yeah,
I mean, I'm not necessarily fearing the Ghostbusters part, just because I feel like it just kind of has to be something that happens. It's how it's done is what's going to matter, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we have articles on all these things. We'll link them in the show notes. You can find Slash Film Daily every weekday on Apple, Google, Overcast, Spotify, all the popular podcast apps. Please feel free to send your feedback, questions, comments, concerns to us at peter@slashfilm.com. And please, if you like this podcast, go to Apple's podcast, write us like a sentence or two, give us a 5-star rating, tell your friends, spread the word, and we'll see you tomorrow.